All right. I'm Rebecca Hay, and I've built a successful interior design business by trial and error, podcasts, online courses, and so many freaking books. Over the last decade, I've grown from an insecure student to having false starts to careers, and now I'm finally in the place where I want to be. Throughout my journey, it's been pretty obvious that I'm passionate about business and helping other entrepreneurs do the same. Each week, I'll share tangible takeaways from my own experience and the experiences of other badass women to help you build your confidence and change your business. Welcome to Resilient by Design. Sharon, I'm excited to have you as my guest today.
Thank you, Rebecca. I'm excited to be here. This is fun.
I'm so excited. So we recently got to know each other a little bit inside Power of Process. And I had this idea that'd be really fun to bring on some designers to share their story for others who are maybe about to start a design firm or dreaming of starting in their own business, or maybe people who've been doing this a little while and they just want to hear that they're in the right lane and they've got this and maybe learn from others. So your story is really interesting, I think. And so I'm excited to have you.
Well, thanks. I'm excited to be here. This is going to be good.
Why don't we just start at the beginning? How did you end up in the interior design industry?
Okay. Well, we live in Oregon and we're right outside the Columbia River Gorge, right outside of Portland near the Columbia River Gorge. So I had an earlier career as a graphic designer for Nike and I loved it.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Nike.
Oh, yeah, I did logos and t-shirts and textile prints and all that stuff. But when we started having children, we have 3 daughters. I stayed home. That's what I wanted to do. That's what our goal was. So then when our youngest daughter was about 4, I thought, I need a creative outlet. So just being, loving people and homes and fabrics, and furniture, I thought, well, interior design, it's kind of like graphic design. So I went back to school, took some courses, and for the first about 8 to 10 years, I worked for other designers. And then about 12 years ago, a friend opened a coffee shop and I got to help with it. And I was like, I'm on fire. This is what I'm meant to do. This is where I feel like I'm gifted and where I can excel and actually help people. So that's how I got started.
I mean, I love that. I love that you actually worked for another designer or so for a decade. So talk to me about that, because it does seem that more often than not these days, people are trying to sort of skip that and start their own business, and then it can be really challenging. Why did you decide to work for someone else first? Had you always planned on starting your own thing, or it wasn't until you had a taste of it? Talk to me about the sort of thought process behind that.
So I knew nothing about business except from the corporate world. But going from a big corporation to then starting your own is a little different. So I needed to gain some confidence, and I knew that I wasn't ready to run the show. So I just sought out some mentors. This was a while ago. And so there wasn't a lot of sharing. I didn't know of any coaches. It was a kind of a different world. It was a little bit snooty and people weren't really sharing much. So I wanted to work for other people. So I worked for a designer in a local smaller town. And then I worked for a furniture store where we had a design studio. I learned a lot there. We did Street of Dreams homes, like show homes. And so I worked under someone there and just gained a lot of confidence, working with people's budgets and their money. And you really need to know what you're doing. We're investing a lot. So I just gleaned a lot of wisdom and gained a lot of confidence by doing that.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that I worked for someone for 5 years, as you know, and it was so beneficial to me just to figure out, like, what does it look like to order a fabric, right?
Right.
Like, I don't know that process. I remember the first day working for him, he's like, "Oh, can you order like 5 yards of this from Kravet?" I was like, "What is Kravet? And what do you mean 5 yards?" Like, I didn't know anything.
Yeah, it's like, can you order what is it, cutting for approve, a CFA? I'm like,
CFA.
okay, sure.
Totally. What's that?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Just learned a lot. There's a lot to know. a lot
There
to
is a
that.
lot to know. Yeah, I think anyone listening who is maybe just starting out or they've just graduated school and you know you want to run your own thing, maybe consider even part-time working for someone else because there's a lot, you don't know what you don't know. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of, it can speed up your learning curve. Just like taking a course like Power of Process can speed up your learning curve when it comes to business and connecting with other designers, when you
Mhm.
actually work for a design firm, you really get to see it from the inside. And when you work for smaller firms, and I'm not sure the size of the firm you worked for, Sharon, but really small firms expose you to a lot.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So that's where I started. And I felt like I said, that just really gave me a, the vote of confidence to think maybe I could do that on my own. So I
So
wanted that
then,
too.
okay, so talk to me about that first job. So then your friend was opening a cafe and you're like, I can do this. Did you immediately quit your job to just start taking on projects, or did you sort of do it as a
I'm
side hustle for a bit?
trying to remember.
And how many years ago was that now?
Well, it was about 12 years ago. Yeah, because I think they just had their anniversary.
Oh no, sorry, you weren't working because you had been a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah, but I did work for another designer first
Okay.
for a while. And then, so we're talking like this is right around that recession. So, we were just kind of coming out of that. So I think I was just trying to establish myself as doing something. It was like, oh, well, if they have confidence in me, and I just knew that I was doing what I was meant to do when I did that project. And I just started doing more and more and just learning as I go, as I went along. And I'm still learning, but I just have a lot more confidence now, a lot more experience behind me, some good projects, working with great contractors who can make the design come to reality, learning how to work with people. That's a skill in itself.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I was working for another showroom, she said, "You're good with people." And I thought, oh, well, that comes naturally. So that's really what I enjoy more than anything is just relationship building, working with people.
Well, and that's really what we're in. We are in the business of people, right? So it's hard to run your own business if you don't like people. It's easy to, really, some people just want to do the creative and they don't want to deal with the clients. And while you can outsource an aspect of that, when you're starting out and you're running your own firm, like you are the people person. And that sometimes I think people forget a little bit because you start out just wanting to create beautiful spaces and you
Right.
have an eye and you can pull things together, but so much more than just knowing what color goes with what and which pattern to put and the grout lines or whatever the thickness of the grout lines. Like it's so much more than that.
Right. I mean, especially these are people's, they invite you into their home. It's not too many jobs where you're standing in people's bathrooms with them and
Mm-hmm.
you're figuring out how you're going to space plan it and these are their intimate everyday spaces and you get to partner with them in that. And so I just feel like it's always a privilege when somebody invites you into their home and into their life. And I feel like I really ultimately am, it's about serving them. And I try to think about, it's about my business, it's about me, but it ultimately is about them. And so I try to think of how can I really serve them, inspire them, encourage them, to see their home. I'm even seeing way above beyond what they're seeing. So I really want to be sure that we're looking at all the details um, that they can, do in this project that they might not have even thought of before. So I try to offer them more than what they're just calling me for because I'm helping them see beyond what they can see, really. That's really
Because
what I think we do.
totally. And clients don't know what they don't know either, right?
Exactly.
And that's your job as the professionals to come in, educate them and show them a whole new world that they didn't even know. And I think that's where a lot of change can happen when you're running your own firm is At first, we just want to give them what they ask for. This is what they want. Oh, and I'm not going to suggest that. They didn't say they wanted that. We're not going to look at the walls, or I'm not going to look at the interior doors. Oh my God, they're so ugly and awful, but I'm not even going to talk about it because that's not what they brought me here for, and they have a certain budget. But I think the more comfortable we get in doing the job, the more we recognize, okay, these people have hired me as a professional, and there is a way to communicate, hey, like, have you ever considered this? Here's what I see. I know you didn't bring me in to do this, but this is the bigger picture. And here's how this, that, and the other can connect. And I did that once with a client where they brought me in to do something else, to do renos, and we did a 3rd-story addition. And I was walking through the rest of the house. I was like, oh, like your doors, like, would you ever consider updating your interior doors? Like, they're just like a typical 800 series builder grade hollow door. And the husband looked at me and he's like, I just replaced all those myself. And I thought, foot in mouth, Rebecca, foot in mouth. But you know what, Sharon? He ended up asking the builder to quote. And he's like, I never would have thought of that. I didn't know anything about doors. I just assumed a door is a door. He's like, now I can't unhear what you told me. And now it's bothering me looking at those interior doors. And he had the contractor quote, and they ended up replacing all of the interior doors. It wasn't in my scope. They did it after. And he said, thank you for that, Rebecca, because it elevated our home. And I didn't even know that our home was missing it.
Exactly. It's tricky because you don't want to, I always tell people, I said, I've seen homes in every phase, no judgment, but you're looking at it somewhat objectively, and they can't see it objectively anymore. And so you want to offer, like, so many people don't have great lighting, and it's like, have you considered recessed lighting? Everyone thinks it's going to be so expensive. Well, let's do a trade day. Let's get a quote, so if you want to do it or not. Everyone does it because they know they need more lighting, especially here in the Northwest, in the winter. And so it's things like that where even just my last client said that after we got done, she goes, oh, Sharon suggested things I hadn't thought of. We needed the plaster walls repaired, but we didn't think we could do it now. We're doing furniture, but it's like, let's get it done. So you don't have another project in the room. Like, let's get all of it out there. Then you can choose what you want to keep in the scope or add to the scope, but at least where you stand. You have actual quotes, and you can move into that. I mean, because I really want to get, the room or the home done for them. So they're not saying, oh, why didn't we do that? Or, it's like, let's suggest things. And then, we're helping them see what they can't see. That's what inspiring people is. It's like, oh, let's look beyond. And, it's so funny because they're like, never would have thought of that. And you're just saying, some basic stuff, or you throw out a creative idea. They're like, whoa, because, that's what we do every day. So yeah, it's always kind of surprising what people haven't thought of.
So you mentioned trade day just there. And I know that's something that I teach about in Power of Process. Is that something that you were doing before you took the course? Or is that something that now you've added into your process? I'm curious.
I had done it one time, just kind of hearing it with all the, speaking out there and all the things. But I learned how to actually do it in your course better, which I will be changing. But yeah, I did it with a project about this time last year. And like I said, now I know how to do it the right way from your course, but it made a lot of sense. And I love what it can do for the client and for myself. I mean, one of the things I love about listening to your podcast, Rebecca, is you're not afraid to admit when you've done things wrong, and then you learn from them.
Right.
I kind of have this self-talk of, oh, I should know that by now. I've been doing this so long. I should already be here.
Right.
I should be doing that. I should know this, and kind of doing the discouraging myself instead of using it to empower myself for change. I mean, we're all growing. There's always more to learn. No one has arrived. So I liked that about you, that you could just kind of laugh at the silly things the way
there's a lot of them, as you all know.
Yeah, the way I used to do things, I'm like, I cannot even believe the way I was doing some of these projects last year. I got into bad habits. That's really why I did PLP with you. I was like, I've started some bad habits, and I need to get a revamp and a restart. And I had to really look at myself and the way I was doing things and take a pretty hard look and say, just make some changes, kind of do a restart, start with the next client. So I really did implement a lot of what I learned from
Oh,
you.
that's awesome. So I'm so interested as someone who's been doing this for a long time, and you are a pretty seasoned designer from what it sounds like. What was it? What were some of the things that maybe stood out to you the most about the process that I teach? Was it just the fact of that I have a process, or were there some really concrete ideas in the course that you thought, oh my gosh, I need to do this?
Uh, Kind of all of it. Because like I said, I got in some pretty bad habits. The projects were taking too long. And yes, sometimes it was the client making decisions, but it was me.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
Yeah.
going out the project really kind of not everything sourced. I'll get to that. Kind of just not doing my best, honestly. And so I really, with the steps in the process, I know that that's going to go better. I've already started using some of the steps, so it is going better already. But yeah, a lot of it, I think the client, I think it was module 2, and it was just qualifying people because I know that we all want to work with everybody, and everybody seems nice and great to work with, but that's just not a great way to start a relationship with a potential client. Is You really got to qualify them better. So I really spent some time with that, and really doing a little bit better job on the discovery call and the
Mm.
consultation to set out expectations. And I try to get to the consultation if it sounds like there's potential, because you never know, what you're gonna glean once you get there. But then just qualifying even further at the
Mm-hmm.
consultation. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love hearing you say that because that's one of the things in designer's room because once people have gone through the course or anyone really can join, but there's often questions. Like every month we have hot seat questions. And so many questions come out. They're like, well, I'm dealing with this situation. What do I do? And my immediate thought is if you had done the things at the beginning of your working relationship with them, whether it was wording in your contract or conversations up front or repeating blah, 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 this situation
Mhm.
would not even exist. It's
Right.
so common. We get ourselves into situations that are sticky later on that really could have been avoided if we just started off our working relationship on a different foot. So I love that that was a big takeaway for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we only have time for a short conversation. And like, I'm not used to this. So this is like really hard for me. Like,
Yeah.
I have so many more questions. We'll have to have you back. But what would you say has been the biggest change in your business over the last year? Definitely since you've taken the course or since you really started to focus on working on your business. What would you say have been the biggest outcome? And then I do want to hear your nugget of wisdom. But first, I want to know what's changed for you.
I think that the process and the steps that you teach, which again, I went through it all when we were in the course, but I'm going back and doing some of the files and all the things. Um, it's really the steps. Yeah, the clients look at it. It's for me. Like it's for accountability for me to be sure that the in my business is going the way I want it to. I mean,
Mm,
guiding and leading the client, but it's ultimately my responsibility. I don't want a client to call or email and say, okay, what's next? And that was happening. Um,
yeah.
I kind of hate to admit that, but it's even with the last client I had, it went pretty well. She emails, what's the next step? It's like, that shouldn't happen. So it's things like that where I want to be proactive. I want to set the whole project up for success. They shouldn't have to ask me what's next. They should know. I feel like a lot of times I'll tell them something one time and think, oh, okay, I told them they're going to remember.
Nope.
Well, and then write it and then hand them, the document or whatever. because I don't remember everything that was told. So communication is probably not my strong suit. So that I'm doing much better at, just really saying things clearly and laying out the process and then giving them documents so that they can have to refer to. So that's been
Mm,
super helpful. And it just, gives you more confidence
yeah.
yourself as what the next step is. And
Yeah,
I-
1000%.
it just builds a foundation of what your business to make it stronger. So
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you for sharing your experience.
yeah.
Okay. What is the last nugget of wisdom that you have for our listeners today, Sharon?
Mm. Well, I love to talk, so I could probably just talk forever. But
That you
um
just have to start a podcast. That's what I did.
no, no, I got enough to do. I just, I wanted, we talked a little bit about um inspiring people. So I really feel like that is what I try to do for people, is inspire them to live their best life in their home where they are, better than they even understand how much a transformed space can mean for their life, to lift them up. I feel like I really want to help them reflect in their room and their home the best of who they are, like I said, even better than they can imagine. So at the same time, like we were talking a little bit too about, the business is our business, but it's really about the client. So how can I serve them best? When it comes down to it, this business is really about relationships. And so I just feel like, I've had this blessed life and this great way to have a business on my own and make it what I want, that I want to extend that and bless other people and have it not be just about me. I really want to serve them. This is a learned thing that took me a lot longer to learn from my selfish tendencies at this age. And also, like, if you're thinking about remodeling your home, or a client is thinking about, yes, let's do this or that, I mean, why are we waiting? Like, life is going by. And you get a
Yeah.
lot of clients are a little bit older, my age or older. It's like, if you don't do it now, when are you going to do it? Like, yes, have a print on the chair. I mean, who cares if you don't like it
Yeah.
in 10 years? You don't need to have your same furniture forever in your life. Like, let's update it. Let's make it fun. Let's make it reflect who you are. So I want to go in and I want to leave every conversation, not just with clients, but friends, family. I don't always do this, but my goal is to always encourage people and inspire them. So when I leave the conversation, they feel better. Um, and so
Awesome.
that's what I aspire.
I love that. I
to.
love that. It's such good advice. Don't wait. Stop waiting, people. Oh
Just
my
do it, right?
gosh. Stop being boring too. I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
that.
And these last clients, I haven't posted their project yet, but I will. I'll send it to you. They needed to have repairs to their walls and new lighting, and they wanted color, but they never thought about, a deep, rich color on the wall. Sort blue, of course. Everything I do is blue. But they it just transformed the whole space, and they just love it. They would have never picked that on their own, but they're like, well, why would we wait? This is the last time we're gonna do this. So
Mm,
yeah,
I love it.
it's so fun to do this with people. I love what we do.
I love it. You can tell, I can tell that you love what you do. You love your clients. You love the work, and that you've really invested in you in the last year at least to make sure that it's more fun for you, that you have a system, you have processes in place so that you can serve your clients even better. And so that just goes to show that you really are you're dedicated to your clients, which is amazing. So everyone listening today, go give Sharon a find and follow. Where can they follow you, and where can they find you, Sharon?
They can find me in Oregon, come visit. But if you can't visit, I'm on Instagram, just at Sharon Hocking Interior Design. My website is Sharon Hocking Interiors. Not on Facebook a lot.
Okay. Well, we will link all of that in the show notes. People can come and find and follow you. And thank you so much for being my guest today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, there you have it. I think that's so interesting. I love talking to designers. I love talking to entrepreneurs, creatives especially, and learning their path and what path they took. I think it's really wonderful that Sharon worked for so long under other designers because you really do see so much behind the scenes. And after we finished recording, we talked about, why did she take Power of Process? And she said she was actually weighing it between two other programs in our industry. And ultimately, she picked Power of Process because she wanted to learn from me because I'm candid in the way that I share information, but she also loved that it was delivered live. And I did ask her after, I said, I'm wondering, should I keep delivering it live or should I just make it available all the time? And she said the live component was really helpful for accountability, to go through the course with other designers who are learning and implementing at the same time. So you're asking questions and you're in the same place as someone else. And so you don't feel like you're alone. And let's be honest, sometimes you feel like, even Sharon said that in this episode, you feel crummy because you're like, well, I should have known this. But then when you see that others don't know it either, or they're doing it different too, it certainly makes you feel better. Anyways, if you guys are interested, you can check out Power of Process on our website, RebeccaHay.com/power of process. But please go find Sharon, give her some love on Instagram, let her know you heard her here. And I'd love to know if you found this episode helpful. This is the first in a little series that we're going to do with interviewing designers, explaining their career path, their journey, their trajectory of where they started and where they are now and the route that they took. I know that when I was starting out, I would have liked this, but I'd love to hear from you. So please send me a DM on Instagram or you can hit us up. You can always email us podcast@RebeccaHayDesigns.com. Free to leave us a review on iTunes. It would mean the world to me, so we can get more eyeballs on this podcast, eardrums. That's what I should be saying. All right, go and enjoy your day. Thanks for listening. See you soon.